Welcome to episode 108 of the Launch Your Live show. Today, we're going to talk about whether you should hide your microphone or show it in the shot. And this includes live streams, it includes pre recorded videos, any kind of content you're creating. It's always a question that we get, especially for people that are live streaming. So, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to episode 108 of the Launch Your Live show. Just a couple of quick notes. You can go to launchyour.live/EP108 if you are listening to our audio podcast, and you can watch the video. You can see all the products that we're talking about. In addition to that, by the way, if you want to check out anything that we are talking about during the live stream, any of the products, all you have to do is go to launchyour.live/Mike stands. And what that's going to do is it's going to direct you to a list that we have up on Amazon Live, because we are streaming over on Amazon Live. And we're talking about all these different things, showing you some different creative ways that you can hide your mic, or if you should show it. So with that, I'm going to go and bring on Marco Novo, who is co-hosting with me on this episode. And we're going to start talking about hiding your mic or showing your mic. So Marco, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. And you? Since last year.
It is. I know, a long time, like, right? I mean, wow, whew, so long ago last year, right? Just a couple of like a week. But yes, this should be a fun episode, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I mentioned today we're going to talk about how to hide your mic. We're also going to talk about whether you should, what type of mic you should show, what you should not show, some creative solutions, all that sort of stuff. So I want to kick things off, Marco. Like, on the surface, so do you think that you should hide your mic when you're live streaming or show it? What do you think?
Okay, I think there's no a right and wrong answer. I think, for
Okay.
instance, sometimes you can show, for instance, if we have a microphone like this, I think that what we should think is your microphone causing distraction to your audience? I think this is the main question you should make before thinking about if you can show or not. If, for instance, if you have a shotgun microphone,
Uh-huh.
I don't think could be shown. If you have a kind of dynamic microphone or normal condenser microphones,
Yeah.
there's no problem. It's kind of not a problem. If
So
it's causing too much noise, visual noise,
yeah.
avoid it.
So can you kind of tell people, like, what is a shotgun microphone?
Okay, I have one. I don't know where, but I have one. If you give
Maybe
me
it's above
one,
you.
no, I have
But
one. Just give me 1 minute and I will bring it.
yeah, sure.
I can
So
show
while
you.
Marco is getting his shotgun microphone, he's talking about having different types of microphones. And here's the thing, just because you are streaming by yourself, for example, or you're recording a video by yourself, it does not matter if you get, I mean, we might think of it and say, well, okay, you know what? I'm going to use a mic that, yeah, it's just boring. It's plain. Nobody's going to see it, right? We talk about it like that, but it actually can add some style to your shot, whether you're doing live streaming or pre-recorded videos, and so don't just think about like, oh, well, I'm going to get the cheapest mic, or I'm going to get the ugliest mic, or, the look of the mic actually can matter if you decide you want to hide it. So, Marco says, hey, he thinks that really there's no right answer. So should you hide your mic? It depends. And I 100% agree. It depends as well. That's my answer as well. Do you have that shotgun mic, Marco? Yes.
There you go.
Okay. So let's talk about this. What is a shotgun mic, and where would this be positioned in a shot if somebody's doing a live stream or a pre-recorded video?
Okay, first thing, don't be afraid because the name is just shotgun because it should be like facing you like this way,
Okay.
but
Hmm.
hidden. Okay, it
Yeah.
doesn't it's not a gun.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the things this is speaking sound from the front. Okay, so the sound will come like this. They are usually they are hypercardioid. Okay, so they
Okay.
are really focused getting the sound. Okay, and if you put this in the frame, this will be causing distraction. Okay,
Okay.
and it's not the best way for you to catch sound.
Okay.
So I don't recommend to use this. But the thing is, they are called because they are really oriented when they pick the sound in a hypercardioids. For instance, this will pick the sound mostly in up front.
Okay.
Okay, so this what you should put it, for instance, over your monitor.
So
Okay,
just out of frame,
stand.
probably.
Yes, out of
Yeah.
frame. Okay, and it's a nice option because we know some live streamers which use shotgun microphones and they sound really well.
Got it. Okay. So that's a great example. So again, shotgun mic is one option you could go with. That's something that you're probably going to want to put out of the shot because again, it needs to be directed towards you. It doesn't, if you have it in the shot, the problem is that it's gonna not necessarily going to work very well having it, not having it in the shot. Okay. So then obviously we said, you know what, hey, like it really depends on like, whether you sort of a personal preference, I guess. I would say this, a lot of people, like when we talk about like showing or hiding your mic, I mean, a lot of people think like, oh, well, I don't need, like, they think they want to have it in the shot. They think they don't need it. Like, I would say this, look at other creators. Like, what are other creators doing? It's not to say you have to copy what they're doing, but you also need to kind of think about what your stream or your videos are about, And so, when we talk about like, the second question, which is why hide your microphone, it depends on what you're doing. If you're using a certain type of mic, like Marco mentioned, the shotgun mic, you don't want that in the shot. If you're using the condenser mic, for example, you got a Blue Yeti or things like that, you may want that in the shot because it does add some style. Like, for example, I've got a mic right now and I'm using, I've got a Shure SM7B here, but I have it out of the shot. And part of the reason I have it out of the shot is this. So I have it on a boom arm, and you can probably see this. And I also have this DM1 Dynamite stick on it, which amplifies the gain on the mic. And the thing is, if I brought this in the shot, it then is distracting because then people can't see me. They're seeing the arm, they're seeing part of the mic, they're seeing the
and that red stuff.
yeah, exactly, right. And so, that's a big reason why, you may want to hide your microphone because it does potentially distract from people who are watching your live stream. Now, when we talk about what types of like, who might hide their mic or who might show it, I think here's some things that come to mind. Like I'm thinking, okay, so if somebody is doing a tutorial or an instructional video and they're showing you how to actually do something, I think it's best to hide the mic in that shot. What do you think?
Well, nice point, because this is something that I like to talk usually on my live shows on Amazon,
Yeah.
because for this kind of situations when we are recording a webinar, but mostly a tutorial, because sometimes we need to move hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And having this kind of microphone, maybe it's not the best idea, at least using a boom arm. So maybe a
Right.
lavalier microphone could be a best option because it will give you more freedom.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is an online training, for instance. If you know, if you want to use a whiteboard or something, using a boom arm could not be the best option for you. Maybe again, a lavalier wireless microphone could be the best option. So
Yeah.
you should have this in mind, because one of the problems when you have boom arm is that if you need to go to the keyboard, usually it's a kind of device which is making some disturbing you somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something that you should have in mind as well. For this kind of show, it's okay, it's perfect. But if you need to move your hands often, I think you should avoid using boom arms.
Definitely. And I love the point there, and so let's talk about, so, okay, let me give a couple of examples of why hide your mic. You kind of alluded to some of these. Okay. So as Marco mentioned, if you're doing any sort of like on a demonstration, you don't want to have, like, I have a mic right in front of me right now, and I can move my hands, but I have it positioned to where I might have 6 to 8 inches underneath the mic so I can type on the keyboard. But if I bump into the mic or things like that, it's a lot of stuff you have to think about. So if you're animated, things like that, it may not work for you. So you may want to hide the mic if you're doing any sort of demonstration. If you need to, like, if you have, think about it like this, if you have a 2-camera setup or 3-camera setup, for example, you're doing a top-down shot of something, and you also then have a straight-on shot of yourself, I would hide my mic in that case, because if you're going to be switching between scenes, showing people different angles, different things like that, you don't necessarily want the mic in that kind of shot if you're giving like a top-down approach. Now, if you're doing, and we'll talk about this in a second, but if you're creating if you're creating an online course, or you're doing a webinar or you're doing a training, I also would hide my mic during that shot. And I hide it in the sense that if I'm using a big microphone like a Shure SM7B or a
Yeti.
Shure MV7 or the Blue Yeti,
Yes.
I would definitely like if that's the type of mic I'm using and I'm doing a product demo, then I would try and hide those mics as much as possible. Now let's talk about times when you should show your mic. So that's where like right now we're doing an interview series. So if those of you watching go to launch.live/EP108, you can watch us. We're on screen talking. Marco's got his microphone in front of him. I've got mine in front of me. That's fine. Like it makes sense to have the mic in the shot. When we talk about incorporating 2 to 3 different camera angles, I also think that you could show your mic in that shot, kind of like you, Marco. I don't know if you can switch to one of your camera angles, but
Yes,
you can switch his camera angle and you'll see Marco here has his Shure MV7 right there in front of him, and you can see kind of how he has it positioned on his desk, so he's got it in front of him. And here's the thing that works because of the fact that we're doing an interview. Like we're not actually we're doing a product demonstration, but we don't care if the mic is in the shot. But if we're doing actual product demonstrations, then it doesn't make sense to have the mic in the shot because you do need the ability to move around. And we'll talk about some creative ways to do this here in a few minutes. So are there any other times you can think of, Marco, when you should show your microphone?
I think mainly when it's basically the speaking content. If I made myself clear, I think the microphone could be in the shot. For instance, a podcast recording, even though it's an interview or it's a solo session, I think it could appear. But besides that, if you need freedom to work with your hands or to show something on your desk, maybe showing the microphone is not the best option.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a very good, that's an excellent point actually at that point. That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And are there any other real world examples you can think of? So we talked about product demos, we talked about, tutorials and webinars. What about like a teacher? Like, should a teacher have the microphone in the shot? What do you think?
I don't think it's the best option. Again, I think if it's a teacher, again, a lavalier microphone, because for instance, if let me pretend, and I like to show this camera. This is one of my new cameras. Okay. So this,
Yeah, sure.
and it moves. So if I was a teacher and I needed to move around, let's pretend this black thing here, it's a whiteboard. Okay. So maybe you're not listening to me properly. So if I need to move around, and like a teacher, okay, so now let's look at this whiteboard and whatever. And if I don't think it's the best way that you need to, because besides the microphone in the shot,
yeah,
it's the thing that when you move, people won't be able to listen to you, and this is also a big problem. Maybe if you use a condenser microphone, it could stay in the place. But the thing is, when you move around with a condenser microphone, you need to increase the gain. And with that, the microphone will be picking noises that probably you don't want them in the microphone. So this is something that you should have in mind.
Well, and that is an excellent shot example. I mean, of how you should basically go and kind of think about this. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So, okay, obviously, so a teacher, if the teacher, I think is just doing something like this, I think they can keep the mic out of the shot. I don't necessarily think they need to have it in the shot. The other thing also I think that people need to think about here is that, when you decide whether you should show or hide your mic, part of it's style, part of it is also that look you're going for. Like if you're going for a professional look and, when you look at let's say you look at any other training that someone else has done. A lot of times what you will see people be on screen and they don't have the mic in their shot. If they have a lavalier mic, by the way, for those of you, aren't familiar with lavalier mics, those are little tiny mics that clip onto your shirt. or your collar, and they basically, go about 2 to 3 inches from your mouth. And Marco's got one here actually to show us. So he's got a lavalier mic. It's okay to show these. These are
Yeah,
perfectly
true.
fine to show.
Yeah.
But we're talking like if you've got a big desktop mic, I would try and not necessarily show that in most shots, unless you're doing like an interview or things like that, where it does kind of like help. So so that's a really great idea there, Marco, on whether you should show your mic. So in terms of like, okay, so let's do this. Let's get into some of the fun creative stuff, right? So we talked about, should you show your mic? We know that that's like subjective. Some situations of when you should show or when you should hide your mic. Now let's talk about like some different ways you can set up. Like let's talk about mic stands and mic arms. Because like when we tell people, hey, you know what? Like people start streaming, we tell them you need to go get a microphone. Like we always tell them, audio is the most important part of a live stream, right? There
Absolutely.
are lots of types of mics that you can buy, right?
Yes.
And there's lots of mic stands as well. Like for example, I think in the background you have a Blue Yeti. I think you have a Snowball or something, right?
Yes, I do.
And so let's talk about that. Let's just talk about this real quick. Okay, so Marco's got the Blue Yeti Snowball. And here's what I'm actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's bring up let's not talk about that one. Let's bring up that on stage microphone, Marco. So I'm gonna have you bring that up and I'm gonna show people what this is. So when we talk about microphones and we talk about putting them in the shot, here's what a lot of people do. They buy a microphone and the mic is, if we think about it, the mic, you have to first off decide what type of mic you need based on what you're going to be creating. And then what you need to do is need to make sure you position that microphone properly. And what a lot of people will do is this. They will buy a microphone and the microphone will be a foot or so from their mouth. And as a result, what happens there, Marco, when the mic is too short?
When it's too short,
Yeah.
usually it causes distort of
Okay.
the sound. If
Exactly.
it's a condenser, for sure it will distort the sound. And because condenser microphones, they are really sensitive, and this will cause a awkward sound. People will
Absolutely.
run away.
And as a result of that, what you need to do is you need to make sure that whatever mic you get, that you position it where it's not going to be like right, like I'm going to put this mic right up in my mouth right now. So it sounds probably better, right? But I
Yes.
also have to think about like, okay, well now it's in the shot. So I have to like get that part right. Right. And so that's part of what you got to figure out. But the other thing you got to figure out is how to get that mic to the right height. And what a lot of people do is they'll pile it on top of some books or things like that. I think the better approach actually is to do something like this, is to get something like this. This is the on stage microphone stand. And this is as you can see, it's a solid metal base. Your microphone will sit on the top of it and then it can be adjusted. And let me actually undo this. So you basically can adjust the height of this microphone. So you basically can do this. So now what I can do is I can put the mic on top. I can get it then out of the shot, but it's going to still be within, right in front of my face. So this is what that mic looks like. I'm going to show people this one, Marco. So this is, the first item we want to talk about was this. This is the on-stage adjustable desktop mic stand. Now, this is what the stand looks like, and you are going to need, like, so for example, if you have a Blue Yeti, you could put a Blue Yeti on top of this. You are going to probably need some sort of adapter kit for this. There's some additional rings you'll need to put on top of the actual stand. But the great thing is this mic is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to topple over. You can also put other mics like this on top of it. So, for example, this is I think this is the Shure SM58, for example. So this is an XLR microphone, and you can put this on the stand, and you can, have it right there in front of you, right? So when we talk about mics, we talk about stands, ways to get that mic in front of you. That on stage is a very good option. Now, Marco, let's do this. What are some other like you know how there are cheap, they're expensive mic stands and there's cheap ones, right? Can you
Yes.
can you talk about like let's talk about some cheap ones.
Okay, we have, I don't know, this
Like
toner T.
how about this Gear one? There's a $16 mic stand from
Okay.
Gear, right? Here's the thing, when we talk about mics and stands and arms, you do have I would say you don't have to go crazy with a budget, but you want to be mindful about what you buy. So
Absolutely.
you can buy something like this Gear microphone stand, and we're going to bring this up. And by the way, this is a what is this like $16? It clips
Yes.
on the side of your desk. You can, as you can see, you can put a microphone right into it. You can support most microphones. But what's the problem that often happens with these mic stands, Marco?
Okay. First, is that because it has these outside springs, usually when you move it around, they stretch and they do that vroom noise,
Yes.
which is really annoying. Also, these kind of boom arms, they don't hold that much weight
Okay.
microphones, so
Yeah.
they you may put the microphone and suddenly it may fall
Okay.
because.
Yeah.
But I think the most common problems with this kind of boom arms is the noise of the springs, and also the probability that they may fall.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. So I guess the maybe if we summarized it, you get what you pay for. So it's a
Yeah.
$16 mic. If you're going to hold something like the Shure SM58, for example, that we have in the carousel, if you're going to use something like that, it's not a heavy microphone. So you could get by with attaching this mic, or sorry, the SM85 actually. Sorry, SM58. Yeah. If you get the SM58, that is an option there as well. By the way, you could get that microphone on that $16 arm. Just remember, it's a heavy microphone. So you are going to feel the weight on that stand. It may work just great out of the box, but over time, that spring, the more you move it around,
Yeah,
it's going to
absolutely.
potentially wear down. So you do have to keep that in mind. And that's why we always recommend, like, you can buy the cheapest mic stand, but you're going to probably end up replacing it with a better one at some point. So instead of buying the cheapest one to begin with, what you should consider doing is buying the right one to begin with. And that's going to start with it's going to be getting a stand that can support the lower end microphones all the way up to some of the heavier, higher end mic stands. So okay, so that's a $16 mic stand, Marco. I also don't think like if people have that Blue Yeti, the Blue Yeti or the Snowball, I don't think you can put it on that stand. I think it's not going to support it. Um,
I
definitely
don't
won't
think
support
so.
it. So, what are some other options that I can consider for mic stands, Marco?
Okay, you have this the
Like,
road
yeah, the
the road
PSA one.
it's also a kind of a classic.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I'm using. Yes, the PSA one, right?
I
Eh,
have a really similar to the road, but it's a newer. It's a little bit more affordable,
Yeah.
but the idea it's the same.
So let me do this. Let me show the PSA one real quick, and then we'll talk about a step down in options. So this is the PSA one right here. It's holding up my Shure SM7B, which is a heavier microphone. And the bottom line is, Marco, can I jump back to your wide shot you had of you with your boom arm, how you have it attached to your desk?
Yes, let me see. I
So
think it's
you've got,
this one.
so the way that this microphone works, by the way, is this. So as you can see here, Marco he's got a similar mic stand, and it looks exactly like mine, just a different brand.
Yeah.
And he has it clamped on the side of a desk. And as you can see, it allows you to move it forward, you know, move it back. But what's one of the big problems, I guess, with this kind of mic stand, Marco?
Well, they are a little bit hard to move. I don't know about yours, but the thing is, I need to hit. I like to say, I need to hit a stake to move it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they basically have a little hole that they insert into, and then it just swivels. So it goes in this little like this hole on your desk, and then the whole mic stand can swivel, which is great, and you can move it in
Yes.
and out of the shot. But I think the problem is that it's sort of like awkward. It takes up a lot of extra space, a lot of unnecessary space as well. But it is a very good mic stand. I will say, when you compare the Rode PSA 1 to that much less expensive mic stand, the boom arm that we talked about, it's a big difference in terms of quality. This one's super quiet. Like, I can move it. You hear minimal, like you barely hear it being moved. I don't have to worry about like moving it so much that it's going to break, because it doesn't have a spring in it either. So it's super quiet. And then Marco, you mentioned there's some other ones that you use, right?
Yes. Yes. I have this. Let me
know which one you have.
I have this. This is a Toner T20 boom arm.
So you've got the Toner
Okay.
T20, yeah. And this is
Okay.
this is a good step. I'd say this is a good step down from the less expensive options, right?
Yeah. The thing is, it is a really. Let me show you the profile because you can see
Yeah,
it
sure.
there. Okay. This is assembled, but I have it also disassembled because I have two of them. Okay, they were sent to me by Toner. One of the things I like about this boom arm, besides it is really strong, it holds up to 3 Blue Yeti microphones. Okay, at least they say, but I
Okay.
believe it's
Yeah.
true because it's really strong. Okay, even though it has springs, you don't listen to them while you move it. Okay, as you can see, or as you can listen. And also, it has this nice thing, which is it's really easy to move around, as you can tell. Okay, but it stays in the place where you leave it, which
Yeah.
is nice as well. Okay, and I want to highlight something that I really like about this boomer, which is the
Yeah, sure.
clamp.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the clamp, let me see if can find it, because sometimes I'm good, so I'm really good hiding things.
And Marco, the thing Marco is mentioning here, which is super important with microphones, microphone stands and arms, is how they clamp onto your desk. Because
Okay,
depending on the type
I
of
can do
desk that
this.
you have, you need to ensure that you put a good clamp that can support the weight of that microphone and you moving it around.
So this
So,
is the clamp. It's really strong, and it has this nice thing, this
yeah.
hook to
Okay.
hold your headphones.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So I think this is a nice thing. Okay, so this is one of the main features. Having in mind the price range of this boom arm, I think it's one of the best options for starting.
So that's the
Okay.
toner one, right?
Yes, Toner T20. And I have some questions on my hand, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Do me a favor, by the way. Let's pull your pull that clamp into the shot. Let's show people what that looks like. So up close. So obviously they've got this clamp, and that looks just like the Rode PSA 1, by the way, except for the fact that yours has that nice headphone clamp, which is nice because I guess the other benefit here is if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of space on your desk, let's show that. Yeah, let's show the side profile. It basically you unscrew that silver part, you slide it onto your desk, you tighten it up. You don't have to tighten it so tight, but tighten it quite a bit, and then you have a nice hook. And this is made out of
Yes.
metal. I mean, this is great. And there's a
Yeah,
pad underneath, so it won't
really solid.
scratch. Yeah. And the great thing is, yeah, you basically put this on your desk, and then you put your your arm into it, which is a great point actually.
Absolutely. And someone, Abu Selvan Rocky,
Yeah.
it's asking which streaming service we are using. Do you want to answer the question? Do you want
I'll
me to?
definitely answer. Yeah. It's we're using StreamYard to stream out to Amazon Live actually, and we're doing that via the RTMP setting. So that's how we're doing it. Yeah. So you can check that one out. We've got that for those of you interested in that. We've got that we got that in the notes and stuff. So, but that's what we're using. Yeah. So that's a great question. I gotta
Yeah,
say, I
really.
mean, Okay, so that's the toner one. Now, as you can see, I mean, you get the Rode, you get the toner, like you even get the newer one. Like those are all really good options. I think for the most part, they're all virtually the same, right, Marco?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So
yes,
so it's partly going to come down to what brand you prefer. You know,
yes.
I typically will go with, I don't know about you, but I will go with a brand that I know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
So, you know, because here's the thing, and maybe we can give an analogy here. So, if I'm going to go buy a very expensive luxury vehicle, right, a sports car or something, right?
Hmm.
I'm not going to put cheap tires on it. I'm not going to put cheap gas
Or
on it. Like,
gasoline.
what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And when we talk about whether you should show or hide your mic, you want to look at like the type of mic you're going to be putting on it, and then you want to make sure you get the arm to support that, and then you decide, well, okay, you know what, does it get shown or not? Like if people see the Shure SM7B, which I have in the shot here, like great, right? Like that also is good because then it drums up more conversation potentially because people are then going to want to
Absolutely.
know what kind of gear are you using to make your
Absolutely.
videos. So you want to make, but what I'm getting at is that you want to make sure that you get the right arm to support what you're using. So, for example, if you're using the higher end mics like the SM7B, the MV7, they're heavy mics because they have they've good product or good uh they're made of good
Construction.
construction, yes. And so you want to make sure you have the right type of arm to support that. And then the other thing you also have to look at here when we talk about showing or hiding your mic in the shot is what type of desk you have. Like if you've got a wood desk, it's okay to, you know, you could buy any of the boom arms that like the ones that we mentioned, the toner, the Rode, the newer, for example, and those will be fine to clamp that to. But if you happen to have something like a glass desk, because a lot of people have that,
Yep.
you're going to want to consider a couple other options. Like you're going to want to consider so you're going to want to consider maybe something like there's like the InnoGear adjustable desktop stand. You're going to want to consider this on stage mic stand as well, because what these are going to allow you to do is, you know, if you happen to have a desk that's got glass on it, you're not going to want to clamp anything to it because you can only tighten the thing so much on it without breaking the glass, potentially breaking the glass top. So you want to
Absolutely.
also then consider the application, like what's your desk going to be like, what's your desk setup. So
Absolutely.
very, very, very good options there to consider.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I think we should also talk about, Marco, let's talk about this.
Yes.
Let's talk about, you know, some other ways that you can clamp some things to your desk. So let's bring up the Elgato Master Mount as well. And one thing you're going to notice, by the way, all of these products have similar ways to connect. So this is the Elgato Master Mount that I have here. I'm going to pull it out of the shot so you can see this. It's literally this pole that clamps to your desk. It's made out of stainless steel. And then you tighten it onto your desk. By the way, if you want to check out any of the items we're talking about, just go to launcher.live/mic stands and you can attach different things to this. So this is, you can learn more about these. This is the Elgato Master Mount. Now, what's cool about this kind of system is it's not as flexible in the sense that it doesn't have, you know, an arm that goes up and comes back down. It's a solid piece of metal that clamps to your desk. And then what you can do is you can start to combine it with other types of products. So you've got the Elgato Master Mount, and I'm going to show this, Marco, to our viewers. So this thing clamps to the side of your desk. And then off of this, what's really cool is that you can incorporate other pieces. So they sell what's called the solid arm, and they sell a flex arm. Let's do this. Let's zoom in on that shot. That's a great shot, actually. So as you can see, you can get the Master Mount and clamp that to your desk. Then you can attach this. This is the solid arm. And it's that middle arm there. And what you can do is you could put a mic, a very lightweight microphone onto the middle arm. Or if you wanted to put a mic in the shot, like a shotgun mic, you could use the flex arm, whether it's the large or the small. Like I'm using the flex arm right now to hold up my camera. So this is another good mic option, isn't it, Marco?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the thing, and here's the thing, the great thing about this kind of option is you can put one attachment on your desk, and then you can have a mic on one of those, and you can have a camera
Camera,
on another, or a smartphone, or a second microphone, or a mobile device.
lights.
Lights, exactly, right. And here's the thing. This is what that I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. This is the solid arm right here. And as you can see, I mean, it's a pretty small product. I think it's like maybe 12 inches. This is a solid arm. It attaches to the Elgato master mount just like this. Simply just undo it like this. It slides directly onto the master mount. And now you also get a ball head on the end as well, so you can make your adjustments with the microphone that you attach to it. In terms of a mic, I will say this. I don't think you can put a Shure SM7B or an MV7 on this arm. What I would consider using instead would be something along the lines of the Elgato Wave 3 microphone. And that's because, again, we're talking systems here. So, if you're somebody who you buy the Elgato system, it all works together with most of the Elgato products. If you're like, hey, I need something that's, I want that podcaster look, and I want the mic in the shot, then I may want to go with the boom arm, like the Toner or the PSA1 that Marco was recommending. Marco, so we talked about those options, right? Now, what other options do I need to consider, like if I want to show or hide my mic? I mean, obviously, like some of these allow you to show it, some of them allow you to hide it. What are some other options I can do? Like if I'm like, hey, you know what, I want to hide my mic. We talked about a lavalier, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about not using like an MV7 or a SM7B. Before we go into other mics, let's do this. Let's bring up one other mic arm that we want to talk about. Let's bring up that Elgato low profile arm. And I'm going to show you all this. So this is the Elgato low profile arm. And the way this works, it works like this. So let me show you the box actually, because this thing's a pretty neat little product, right? So this is the Elgato wave mic arm, low profile. Basically, the way this thing works is it attaches to your desk, and you see what's really cool about this? It's only like, I think this is 2 to 3 inches high, I think, right, Marco?
Yep.
And so it's like 2 to 3 inches high. And what this mic stand is going to allow you to do is it's going to basically, instead of being like a boom arm, which goes like this and like this, so it goes up like almost like at an angle, like a roller coaster, it goes up and then down. This is a low profile one, so it comes out and up. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of this one. Do you like the Elgato low profile one, Marco?
Yes, absolutely. I think the fact that he works close to the ground,
Yeah,
it's a really nice option. Yes,
it is. Yeah, and it has a 360-degree rotatable head. It's got adjustable joint tension. It's got cable management, so you don't have to worry about cables. And then the cool thing is you can actually, like, if you have a monitor, if you're somebody who does a lot of interviews, things like that, and you have a monitor, you can actually put this mic stand underneath the monitor, and it will come out and up. So you have various options to consider when you are choosing whether to show or hide your mic. The great thing about, and this is super important stuff. So when we're talking about what type of live stream you're doing, there's lots. I mean, Marco, how many monitor arms do you have?
I don't have monitor
Roughly.
arms but I have.
Sorry, monitor mic arms. How many mic arms do you currently have?
Mic arms 1, 2, 5, I think. 5, and also 2 stands.
Okay, so as you can see, we're talking about various applications of when you would use a mic arm and a mic stand. And so in terms of okay, so Marco, why do you have so many mic arms and mic stands?
Okay, because Toner sent me couple
Okay.
of them, and also
Yeah.
to try,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
at some point, for instance, let me show this one,
Yeah. Sure.
because it's an option as well. Let me change
Yeah.
the angle. Okay. Okay, so this is a stand as well. Okay,
Okay. Yep.
and you can tilt it in different ways.
Yeah.
Also, you can adjust the place where to put this.
Yep.
Okay, and this has this nice thing for content creators. It's a nice thing that you can clamp here your cell phone and
Yeah.
record. So this is a nice option. And one of the things I like about these microphone stands with the base is that at the end you recorded, you made what you wanted to make, and
Hmm.
then you can remove it and put it aside
Yeah.
where on another place. And with a
And,
boom arm, it remains there all the time.
yeah. Yeah. And these are excellent points to think about. Like it comes down to like like it's not just like, hey, I'm gonna go buy this mic because somebody recommended it, or I'm gonna go buy this arm or this stand because somebody recommended it. You have to buy based on what you're going to be streaming about, how much space you have to work with, what your setup is. And it may mean at some point, buying a tabletop stand because you didn't have the right kind of desk, and then moving into an arm or a low profile arm. Or in the last example Marco shared, the desktop stand that has a desktop stand for a mic and the ability to, for example, like if you're a mobile streamer, having the mobile device right there in front of you makes a lot of sense. So you do have to keep that in mind based off of what you're going to be streaming about. And then once you know what you're going to be streaming about, then we have to look at what type of mic we're going to be attaching to it and what our stream is actually going to incorporate. For example, if I were actually like I'm sitting down right now. So think of it like this. If I had a desk and I had a static desk where I sat at the desk, I got up and whatnot, right? If I ever wanted to do anything in front of the desk, I couldn't because the desk is stationary. And that's where like, okay, well then I may need a standing desk, right? And so you have to think about the way you're going to be, doing your work. If you're somebody that, as Marco mentioned, you do a lot of on-screen demos and things like that. You want to be standing up and moving around. You don't need an arm or a mic stand in that case. You actually need something like this. This is the Rode Wireless Go system, which we have here actually highlighted in the carousel as well. And this seems like it's an expensive product. And there's two models, by the way, the Rode Wireless Go and the Wireless Go 2. But the thing you have to remember with these mics is that these give you flexibility to move around. So this is the Rode Wireless Go system here. And Marco, can you kind of talk about like who should consider using something like this, a wireless system?
Well, I think we already mentioned at the beginning,
Yeah.
if you move too much, if you do, for instance, live trainings,
Uh-huh.
which you need to go to a whiteboard, if you
Yeah.
need to make some demos, unboxings, and this kind of stuffs, which requires freedom to move around, this is
Okay.
the best option. Okay, because, and for instance, if you need to go from one side to another,
Yeah.
you need a wireless microphone as well. Otherwise, I think need to carry the desk with wheels from one side to another, like a little dog, which
Yeah.
I don't think it's the best thing you want to do.
No, and that is a great point to make, actually. I mean, here's the thing. So like a lot of people will say this, they'll say, hey, you know what? I'm just getting started. They'll buy the Blue Yeti mic, for example. And so they'll buy the Blue Yeti mic, right? Or they'll buy the cheap mic arm, for example. And then what they'll find they're going to do is that they quickly outgrow it, when what they could have done to begin with was pick up something like that Rode Wireless Go or the Wireless Go 2. So again, the way these work, very simple. So if you're and you can use these if you're sitting down, mostly for interviews or things like that, because they do have the ability to connect a lavalier mic to them. So if you happen to have a lavalier mic, so there's three ways you could use this. First one is you basically could clamp one on just like this.
Yeah.
Not going to do the best job of clamping this on, but you clamp it on. You could clamp it out of the shot, or keep it in the shot. Here's the thing, it comes down to placement. Like that doesn't look good, right?
No.
Like that's not the right look, right? No. So like, so part of it's having the right kind of clothing on. So like what I could do is I could, if I wanted to, I could clamp this in a pocket and then I could run a lot. So one way is I clamp this on my shirt, something like this, something that sort of hides based on like the clothing. And then I have the wireless transmitter connected to my camera. The other option is I could actually put this in a pocket, the Rode Wireless Go. I could put this in a pocket. And then what I could do off of that is one of these is connected to the computer. The other one is in a pocket. And then I run a separate little lavalier mic, little tiny mic that clips onto my shirt or my collar so that I'm still able to get really good sound. And I'm still wireless at that point. And then that way I can do, any sort of movement, things like that I need to do based off what I'm doing. And then the third option is if you decide to go with like the Rode Wireless Go 2 setup, that one gives you 3 mics. So you get 2 mics, one receiver. One receiver goes into your computer, and then the 2 mics can go off. Like Marco and I could be in the same location filming wirelessly and doing actual product demonstrations, things like that. So like we could do a physical, like, product demonstration, like a Amazon Live, like without being at a desk, showing like us using a product. So, and then the other option, the other way you use this is you take one of the receivers, you plug it in your computer, and then you have the ability at that point to be able to record wirelessly, to move around, and you got that flexibility. Is there anything else you want to add on this one, Marco?
I think you mentioned everything, and I think lavaliers microphone are a really practical way to do things. And
Yeah.
if you need to move around, I think
Yeah.
wireless lavalier microphones are the best option because
Mhm.
I don't see, even though you have a huge cable to connect Blue Yeti
No.
or
No.
SM7B, I don't
I
think
know you have
it's
like a long cable running. Yeah.
I don't think it's the best option.
No. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And then um so you have to, again, just to kind of like quickly summarize, it comes down to what your live stream's about. Like as Mark, I mean, I think Marco, you hit the nail on the head at the beginning. Like if you're somebody who, is like you want to make it easy so that as you're doing your live streams or your videos, you don't have to worry about tripping over the equipment. You don't have to worry about, well, oh, I don't have a long enough cable or I can only move so much, right? Because in your mind, you're not able to actually be interactive because you're worrying about pulling too hard on the mic or, as Marco mentioned, if you have a desktop mic and you need to stand when you're streaming, it's, you're going to have to then make sure the mic is right there in front of your mouth so that it can pick up good quality audio. Otherwise, it's not going to sound very good. It's going to sound very far away. It's going to sound like this right now as I step away from the mic. And so you do have to consider all of that when you are choosing what type of mic you want to use. And then obviously, like whether you show or hide it in the shot, if I'm doing, if I'm doing a product demo, the focus needs to be on the microphone. So, the focus needs to be on the product. So I may not want a big microphone in my shot. A wireless mic or a lavalier mic would be great for that. If I'm somebody though that's at a desk and I'm doing interviews and things like that and cutting from different angles, it's okay to show your mic. I think the key thing is you just want to make sure that it doesn't distract from your message and what you're trying to get across to your audience.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else you want to add on this, Marco? Like, and we have any bonus tips, maybe like some creative ways to position your mic? You got any tips there?
Okay, one of the things, and I think we both do that, is don't speak directly to your microphone. Okay, because for instance, even though these are dynamic microphones and they are really, how can I say it? They have criteria choosing the right sound to bring. If, for instance, you have a condenser microphone, they are more sensitive. And when you do that plosives,
Yeah.
if you speak directly to the microphone, it will get all that wind and it will cause that annoying sound. So my recommendation, put the microphone like kind of 45 degrees position.
Yeah.
And speak a little bit off axis. So you will be properly heard, but those plosives, those B's, B's, and D's.
Okay.
They will be directly to the microphone, and with that, you will get a better sound. Okay, so this
Mhm.
is one of the key things. And also, I recommend, because there's this thing. Sometimes we want to buy condenser microphones because they will allow us to move around and to speak faster, be farther away from the microphone. The problem is when you are far from the microphone, it will be picking sounds that probably you don't want him to pick, like hitting the keyboard, mouse clicks, the window, the open window, whatever. So my recommendation: put your microphone close to your mouth. I like to say 3 to 5 inches away.
Okay.
Okay, if you can reduce a little bit the gain, with because you are
Okay.
close to
Yeah.
the microphone,
Yeah.
you don't need the gain that loud, because sometimes we want to sound loud because, okay, with that people will understand, will hear me. But
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
not the point. And when you reduce the gain and you're speaking close to the microphone, you don't need to gain the gain so high, and this will prevent as well noises that you probably don't want to have in your microphone, like clicks, footsteps, and these kind of things on your microphone. And this will give you for sure a better sound.
Excellent. That's an excellent point. Yeah. And so super important to think about like positioning your microphone. The other thing also to think about is do a test as well. So here's the thing: a lot of people, like, if you're just streaming and you're like new, set up like a test Facebook group or stream to like a private like YouTube channel. Like, do those different things and like just test out how you look on camera, how the mic looks. For example, right now, if you're watching, by the way, you can go to launcher.live/EP108. You can see that I have a cable running in my shot. So if I, for example, if I like, I may not have noticed that. And so, I'm going to make some adjustments on my mic right now to try to get that out of the shot. So test your mic positioning, not just the sound, but also if it's where you want it in the shot. The other thing can also do, by the way, another creative way or another creative tip, we mentioned using like a lavalier mic. For example, most microphones are black. You could also, if you wanted to kind of hide the mic a little bit, you could also wear black,
Like,
if that
yes.
goes like with your branding, to kind of blend in with the microphone. And so that way the microphone could sort of be in the shot, but not be in the shot. And then again, I mean, it comes down to making sure you get the right type of mic stand, because you want to make sure, like, if you're going to include the mic in your shot, that it's not distracting. Like
Absolutely.
as you mentioned, I mean, we talked about it earlier. If I bring my mic in the shot, and I ran into this at one point because I could not get my mic in the right place. As you can see, like I'm in frame, but I got all this other stuff, and it's
And that red
distracting.
thing, oh my god, that
Yes.
red thing is like, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other piece of advice, in terms of just buying a mic stand, and position and a mic stand or an arm or whatnot, again, comes back to, don't just buy the cheapest thing on the market. We've got a great comment from Coffee Talk and Tech here who says, hey, in the course of a year, they went through 3 of those really inexpensive mic stands. And part of it is because, it solved the problem like probably for the first like couple times. And then it just became more of a hassle. And when
Yeah,
you're streaming, like, you don't need to buy tons of different mic stands and mic arms and desktop stands. It's literally, maybe you'll buy 3 of them. You'll buy a desktop stand, you'll buy a boom arm like the Rode PSA-1 or the toner we talked about, and then you'll buy the Elgato low profile arm. And the reason is because you have 3 different ways that you could position your mic. And the cool thing is that works with all the different mics that you buy. And that's because you invested up front in the right kind of equipment versus, buying the inexpensive one only to then find out, well, no, it really doesn't work with what I need. So there's lots of ways that you can, and as Marco mentioned at the beginning, there are different ways you can position your mic as well. They don't have to be in the shot directly. You can put the lavalier mic on. You can put you can use a boom arm. You can use a shotgun mic that comes down and it's more out of the shot if you want that look as well. You can use the Rode Wireless Go. You can use the clip-on lavaliers. Lots and lots and lots of options to consider. I mean, is there any key takeaway that you would add, Marco, on this before we wrap things up?
Sounding good, it's important, but also it's important that the visual doesn't distract the audience from your main message. Okay. And for instance, and when I mentioned, for instance, the question of the angle and speaking out of axis, because usually we tend to use this kind of thing as well to prevent the plosives to coming into the microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. And this, for me, it's a distractor.
Yeah, no, and that is a excellent point you're making. Marco's talking about adding a pop filter in front of your mic as well, and that is something else you got to consider. Like, the more stuff you put in front of you, the more distracting it is to your viewers, and so you want to get the best quality audio, but you also want to make sure that it's not so that it doesn't make you uncomfortable. When you are live streaming, because again, what is the most important part of live streaming, Marco? It's the message that you're
Absolutely.
sharing with your audience. It's not the most
Absolutely.
expensive equipment.
Nope.
Having the mic in the shot can add some different style to your shot, but it also doesn't need to be in the shot. So,
Absolutely.
what I want to do, by the way, before we quickly wrap things up here, is just want to thank everybody for tuning in to episode 108 of the Launch Your Live show, where we talked about ways you can hide your microphone, ways to show your microphone, when to hide and when to show your mic. We also talked about different mic stands and different arms. You can check out all of that at launchyour.live/mic stands. Just a couple of quick resources, by the way, for everyone. So if you're wondering about, how do I pick the right type of microphone? You can check out episode 38, launchyour.live/EP38, where we talked about picking the right mic for live streaming. We also talked about on episode 76, launchyour.live/EP76, how to pick the best USB microphones. And we also talked about the best XLR mics on launchyour.live/EP77. But with that, Marco, this has been a lot of fun. I like just demoing this and talking all about, how to hide your mic in your live streams and really whether you should. But I'm Christian Karasiewicz, joined by Marco Novo. Thanks a lot for tuning in for episode 108 of the Launch Your Live show. Again, don't worry about if your mic is in the shot or not. Like, it's not something you should stress over, but it is something you should consider.
Absolutely.
So, well, with that, we'll see you all on a future episode. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.